You ever notice how the smallest momentum name, a look, a single question can flip your world upside down in the span of a heartbeat? That's what happened to me one Tuesday, somewhere over Ohio. And if you're willing to hang with me for a while, I'll tell you exactly how a routine flight from Philly to Chicago turned into something that still won't leave me alone, even months later. Yeah, that happened. Picture this. First class cabin, American Airlines, 1857. The usual ballet of suitcases and coffee cups, flight attendants with that half-smile plastered on, and I'm just settling in, feeling like I've earned my spot up front. Then in comes this little black girl, Zora, chin up, vintage satchel, way too composed for someone who can't even ride the coasters at Six Flags yet. She slides right into doesn't hesitate, pulls out To Kill a Mockingbird like she's got nothing to prove, which turns out she absolutely does. I mean, you know what I mean? Nobody in first class expects a kid, much less a kid like her, to be there alone. But here's where it gets real. The guy in two, let's call him Harrison, early 40s, probably lives and dies by his frequent flyer status, sits down, and the tension in his jaw is loud as thunder. He keeps darting looks at Zora, and the wheels in his head are spinning so loud you can practically hear him. I'm just minding my own business, trying not to get involved, but then the flight attendant Marion, veteran of 1,000 flights, comes by. She's all business, but you can see she's clocking everything, too. Harrison pulls her aside, drops his voice like anyone can hear in first class, and says there must be a mix-up. Maybe there's a more suitable seat for the minor. Marion gives him this look that could freeze coffee midair, says everyone's in their assigned seats. You know, the type unflappable, but the edge is there. Harrison tries again, complains about needing to work, starts hinting around about policy and appropriate placement. The couple across the aisle chimes in, silver-haired, gracious but sharp, asks what the problem is with having a child nearby. She seems perfectly well-behaved to me, the woman says, and the man, her husband, chimes in, eyebrows at full alert. Suddenly, this little moment is a spectacle. Zora, for her part, sits perfectly still. She's gripping her book so tight you can see her knuckles whitening, but her face, man, she's got that mask down. I can't tell if she's scared or bored, but I know she's not missing a word. Harrison finally leans in, drops the hammer. Look, we both know she doesn't belong here. Just find her another seat. That's when Marion's veneer cracks for just a second. Clarify what you mean, sir, she asks, but everybody in the cabin knows exactly what he means. It's not about her age or her book. It's about her skin, her hair, the space she's taking up in a world he thinks is reserved for men in suits. The conversation grinds to a halt. Harrison doubles down, wants to see the manifest, wants proof, wants policy, wants Samioniani and Ito say it out loud, so he can feel justified. The tension is thick enough to spread on toast. And then, like the universe deciding it's time to call a bluff, Marion asks Zora to state her full name for the record. Zora Elena Rockefeller, the girl says. You can feel the cabin go silent, absolutely, heart-stoppingly silent. Marion drops her clipboard, papers flying. Harrison goes pale as milk, tugs at his collar. 3 rows back, someone gasps. The name works like a magic trick suddenly. Every calculation in the room changes. Marion stammers, apologizes, offers extra cookies, her tone flipped from chilly to servile. The captain, who's been brought into the drama by now, approaches Zora with a new level of deference. Miss Rockefeller, we apologize for the disturbance. And just like that, she's transformed from unwelcome to VIP. But the thing is, Zora doesn't celebrate. She just goes back to her book, and if you're really watching, you catch the way her hand shakes a little, the way her eyes keep darting to the window. Because she knows everyone knows it shouldn't take a famous last name to justify her place in that seat. You think that's where it ends? Not even close. The rest of the flight rolls by in this thick, uneasy quiet. Lunch comes. Marion brings Zora her meal with way too much fuss, while Harrison picks at his food, appetite gone, cheeks burning with humiliation. Mrs. Abernathy, the woman across the aisle, tries to ease the mood, talks to Zora about her grandfather's business with the Rockefellers, tries to make it all normal. Zora answers politely, drops a gem her mother used to say, privilege is like an invisible backpack, and for a second, you see everyone in earshot stop and think. Harrison finally apologizes, sort of, but you can tell it's the kind of apology people give when they've been caught, not when they understand. Zora's response is smooth diplomatic, mature beyond her years. She's used to it, she says, and man, those words land hard. I'm used to it. Imagine being 11 and already used to having to prove you belong. A little turbulence shakes the cabin, literally and figuratively, and Harrison, who a minute ago wanted her gone, finds himself explaining away her fear air pockets. Nothing to worry about. Conversation follows about mothers, about favorite books, about loss. Turns out, both lost a parent to cancer. Both know what it's like to carry grief in your bones. It's awkward, it's human, and in those moments, the armor drops a little on both sides. When they land in Chicago, Marion tries to offer Zora a special escort off the plane, but she declines and Josephine is waiting. As they file off, Harrison pulls Marion aside and arranges an anonymous Slido upgrade Zora's return flight, cover any fees, a gesture that says, I'm trying, even if he knows it's not enough. Now, if you think Zora walks away from this lighter, think again. She finds her aunt, Josephine, in the swirl of O'Hare, lets herself be held for just a moment, then recounts what happened, measured and precise. Like flipping a switch, she says. Josephine listens, offers comfort, wisdom, that rare space where Zora can admit she feels small, that her worth in that cabin came down to a name, not who she is. Back at the Abernathy's brownstone, Zora unpacks, talks it over with Mrs. Carter, the housekeeper who's practically family. Mrs. Carter drops some wisdom from her own grandmother. Some people need to see your crown before they recognize your royalty. Zora considers what that means, how it stings and soothes at the same time. Meanwhile, Harrison's not quite himself in his big meeting downtown. Patricia, his boss, notices, calls him out. He ends up recounting the incident to her, to his own mother at dinner that night, a legendary retired educator, no less. Each time he tells a story, he's less sure he can defend his actions. And each time, someone challenges him, what are you going to do now? Not just for yourself, but for the bigger problem. Time passes. Zora settles into her new life in Chicago as her father fights cancer across town. She's the new kid, the smart one, the Rockefeller, the kid who won't let herself get too close to anyone. Harrison finds himself changed, too more aware, more uneasy about how the world divides itself. One morning, fate throws them together again, same flight, same row, 2A and 2B. This time, the conversation is different. There's respect, there's awkwardness, there's a weird sense of camaraderie, like veterans of the same storm. When Zora's anxiety about her dad shows through, Harrison steps in, offers to help, just a presence, nothing more, nothing less. When they reach Philly, he walks her to the hospital, makes sure she gets to her family, no fanfare. For a brief moment, two people who were strangers not long ago stand together, the weight of assumptions, grief, and hope pressing in from all sides. Months roll on. Zora writes essays about social justice for Harrison's mother's lecture series. Harrison keeps showing up for her in small ways, and both grow sometimes because of each other, sometimes in spite of the world. The thing is, that 2-hour flight never really ended. For Zora, for Harrison, for everyone who watched that name transform a child into a symbol, the real journey, the one about seeing, about growth, about what it takes to be human together, is just getting started. So, if you're still here with me at the end of this story, maybe take a second and think about the spaces you move through every day. Who gets to sit where and why? Drop a comment. What's the moment that opened your eyes? Subscribe if you want more stories that peel back the curtain on everyday life, privilege, and those small acts of courage that change everything. Because in the end, the real question is, what do you see when you look around? And who's still invisible, waiting for someone to say, yeah, you belong here too? Let's talk about it.